Thanks everyone for coming on a Saturday. I think I've said this to like everyone at different points, or if you're new here, but yoga is just about doing what feels good for your body and exploring what that process is. So we're gonna start on our backs. So if everyone wants to come down onto their backs. And then take the ankles out wide towards like the corner edges of the mat. And then let the toes kind of like fall opposite of each other. So left goes left and right goes right. Almost like you're turning the insides of the feet towards the sky. And then just try to find whatever arm variation feels good for you. So if you want to keep the hands on the body because it's a little cooler in here, then take one hand to the heart and one hand to the belly. And then just try to let the biceps and elbows rest. And if that feels like you're kind of forcing that, then you could even just take both hands to the belly or maybe even the tops of the hips. And then if you feel like you want to open up through the arms, then you can also take your arms out wide, like you're forming a capital letter A with the body. And then as you allow the hands to rest wherever they rest, just try to let the rest of the body follow suit. So just try to really relax the legs, even the toes and the ankles, try to relax those. Try to let all of the big muscles in the legs and the calves and the thighs and the hamstrings, everything just sort of melts into the floor. And then if it feels okay to do so, if you haven't already, just try closing your eyes and letting your eyelids get nice and heavy over the eyeballs. And then similarly to the hands resting on the body or on the floor, let the eyelids rest nice and heavy and let all of the facial muscles relax as well. I know it seems weird, but like try to let the jaw and the teeth and the tongue and the lips, like everything in the face, the eyes, the nose, the forehead, just everything relaxes into the head and the head relaxes into the floor. Just try to feel nice and heavy. I say this a lot in my classes, but I just feel like as humans, we're constantly on the go, like from the moment we wake up. Sometimes maybe we have nice slow mornings, but usually whether it's school or work, we're just sort of waking up and jet setting. From the moment we wake up, we're just on an agenda, crossing off things, almost like going into autopilot mode. And so your yoga practice can just be a time for you to really plug back into yourself, because we can't pour into all of those things we have to do every day without being in tune with what's going on within. So just notice what's going on with you today, how you're feeling physically, how you're feeling maybe like mentally or emotionally. All of those things are connected. And then as you're checking in, doing a little inventory, just start to notice your breath. Just notice like the effortlessness of the breath. Notice how the inhale comes in through the nose and fills up the back of the throat, going down into the belly. And then notice all of the parts of the body that start to relax a little bit more as you exhale. So on the inhale, the hands might lift a little bit as you expand. And then as the belly button moves closer to the spine, maybe the hands lower. And then as you're finding the breath and more awareness in the breath, maybe you just start to deepen the breath a little bit too. So just notice if you can start to take a little bit of a longer inhale, filling up the body just a little bit more, creating space. And then exhaling, maybe you send the exhale a little bit farther into the body. Just keep breathing in this way, taking longer inhales through the nose, longer exhales. My favorite part about yoga is just that I'm never still, and it just gives me the opportunity to just be in my body. Take a longer inhale through the nose, filling up through the top of the head. And then send your exhale all the way down the legs, through the feet. When we breathe, we're like breathing in oxygen, obviously, but that's what's sending energy into the body. So you can kind of like think of your breath like that. I feel like we don't ever really think about our breath until we're still and we're kind of forced to. But that's like what's giving you life. Your breath is giving you life, and that is like truly, truly a gift to think about sometimes. So whenever you're feeling like depleted or stressed or whatever the million emotions that you could feel at any given time as a human being in this world, you can always just come back to your breath. It's like the number one thing that can calm your central nervous system. And it's like a really, really big tool to utilize. So whenever you feel ready, maybe just start to find a little bit of movement into the toes and the fingers, sort of moving the toes, wiggling them. And then again, doing the same thing with the fingers. So maybe creating space between the fingers, maybe curling the fingers and then spreading them out again. And then let's all take the hands over the top of the head, and we're gonna interlace the fingers. So interlace the fingers and then press the palms away from the head. So turn the palms away from the top of the head. So we're interlacing the fingers and then stretching the palms away from the top of the head and pointing the toes opposite of the fingers. So activate through the toes, press the toes away from the knees, and send the hands over the head. Just take a really big body stretch. And then when you're ready, we're gonna come back to center and pull our knees into the chest. So pull both knees in towards the heart. And then wrap the hands either around the shins, either interlacing the fingers again, or maybe just one hand to each shin. Or if that doesn't feel available for you, you can always reach behind the thighs. And wherever you are, just try to let the weight of the legs press the lower back and the middle back and the shoulders a little bit more into the floor. And then from here, just try to find like a little swaying motion, not so big that you're swaying off all the way to the left or right, but just hold the knees in towards your heart and just sort of cycle through the hips as you sway just slightly back and forth. I always love doing this because it feels like a little massage, using the support of the floor to just roll out through the lower back and the shoulders. Take one more breath in. And then when you're ready, we're gonna let both knees fall off to the right. So both knees fall to the floor to the right side, stacking over each other, and then arms come out nice and wide like a T. So just try to keep both shoulders flat on the ground if you can, even if that means you're not twisting as deep. And then whatever feels better for the biceps and the shoulders, whether that's turning the palms towards the floor or turning the palms towards the sky, maybe just play around with that. And then explore what feels best with the neck and the head too. Maybe you're staying, the face faces the sky and the eyes stay closed. Or maybe you wanna create a little bit more of a stretching sensation and turn the head towards the left hand. And then wherever you are, just try to let your body rest really heavy on the floor, feeling the floor supporting you. Take a deep breath in. And send your exhale deep down into the lower back and the hips. Take one more breath in. Exhale, release. And then when you feel ready, maybe turning the palms towards the floor if they're not already. Try to imagine that you're activating the muscles in the torso. So the abdomen muscles, the muscles in the legs. And then slowly bring your lower back to the mat and pull your knees back towards center. And then maybe you want to pull both knees in towards the heart and sway side to side once again, just coming back to that little massaging of the spine. And then whenever you feel ready, we're just going to switch sides. So letting the knees fall off to the left, stacking over each other. And then let the arms come out nice and wide to a capital T, trying to keep the shoulders nice and flat and connected to the ground. And then explore if this side calls for anything different. Maybe the palms are facing the floor, maybe they're facing the sky. Maybe you turn the head towards the right hand or keep the face towards the ceiling. Maybe the hips might feel a little bit different here. Maybe this side feels tighter. Just notice if this side feels any different in the body. And then come back to the breath if you've lost any sight of it. So take a deep inhale through the rib cage. And send your exhale all the way down into the lower back and the hips. Take another deep breath in. And exhale. And then when you feel ready, again, turn the palms towards the ground if they're not already. And then really activate the abdomen muscles, activate the muscles through the legs so you can squeeze the legs together. And just start to move your back to the mat. And then just one more time, pull the knees into the chest. Maybe just squeezing them a little bit closer to the heart. And then take a deep breath in. And out. And then from here, our feet are going to come to the floor and the knees are going to stay facing the sky. So feet to the floor, knees face the sky. And then feet are hips distance. So imagine that your feet are right beneath the hip points. Like there's two fists in between the ankles. And then just walk your feet a little bit closer to the hips. And the arms are nice and long at your sides. So like you're reaching the fingers down towards the heels. Fingers down towards the heels. And then tuck your chin slightly, but keep the back of the head on the ground. And just by doing that, you're lengthening through your spine. So you can feel this nice long line of connection all the way from the tailbone, the lower back, through the spinal column, all the way through the neck and the top of the head. So just feel the ground supporting you everywhere, in your feet, in your hands, in your arms, your back, your hips, your head. And then from here, we're going to start to press into the feet and then send the hips towards the sky. And as you do this, our arms are going to lift up and over the top of the head. So the backs of the hands are pressing into the floor over the head. So our biceps are by our ears. Hands are just resting over the head. And then keep pressing into the feet so you lift your hips towards the sky. Take one breath in, pressing into the feet, the shoulders, even the backs of the hands. And then when you're ready, we're gonna slowly lower our hips back to the floor and bring our arms back to our sides. And then just pause here, let the lower back and the hips find the floor. Come back to your starting position. And then when you're ready, we're gonna flow through that 3 more times. So on an inhale, we're gonna press through the hips, hips reach towards the sky, press into the feet, and arms reach up and over the head. And then when you're ready, exhale, lower everything back down to the floor. Once the lower back meets the mat, just pause, feel the support there, and then lift again. So press through the hips, press through the feet, press through the shoulders and the back of the head, lift the hips a little bit higher, and then exhale, come back to center. Just sort of energizing through the backside. Let's do 2 more. Lift, press, exhale, come back to center. Last one, reach the hips and the hands over the head, press nice and deep into the floor. And then just pause here. See if you can stay here for 2 cycles of breath. Really, really use the support of the floor beneath the body. So press into the shoulders, press into the backs of the hands, the feet, lift the hip hinge just a little bit higher, squeeze through the glutes. And then slowly lower the hands, lower the hips. Come back to center, just let everything rest on the floor. And then when you're ready, let's pull the knees back into the chest. This time, reaching both hands behind the backs of the thighs. And then crossing the ankles here, we're just gonna start to rock ourselves up to a seat. And then when you're ready, just crawl over the hands. So we come into a tabletop position, coming into all 4s. And then just for a moment here, we're gonna sink our hips into child's pose. So we're gonna bring our knees out towards the side edges of the mat. Our big toes are touching, so tops of the feet on the floor. And then just start to sink the hips back towards the heels, crawling the hands out over the top of the head, resting the forehead on the mat. And try to let the hips sink nice and heavy, and try to release the shoulder. So even though the hands are extended over the head, can you relax through the upper body and allow the shoulders to sink, the heart closer to the ground?